Let me tell you what's the number one most dangerous thing a pilot can do. It might surprise you. If ever a pilot is in an incident, people want to know what went wrong. They like to analyze everything about a pilot to figure out what could have been done differently. Some of the things people like to analyze is, did the pilot get enough rest before the flight? Was the pilot sufficiently prepared? Did the pilot use proper CRM? Or did the pilot have any difficulty in his training leading up to that flight? Let me give you my opinion. After flying for 14 years and flying thousands of hours, all the way from the small aircraft to the large Boeing wide-body aircraft, and interacting with hundreds of pilots, and spending countless hours studying accident investigations, the number one mistake pilots make is to forget the basics. That's right. It sounds simple, right? I'm not talking about learning something new and keeping up with the new technology in aviation. What I mean by forgetting the basics. You'll see a couple of accidents where the pilot relied too heavily on the automation and didn't think things through. They were handling the airplane as though it was a computer game versus a real flying machine. And when things went wrong, they kept treating it like a big computer instead of flying it like an airplane. So for example, if a pilot were to stall a big airplane, one of the first things they try to do is to use the autopilot to try and fix the problem, or they'll try and power out of it. Whereas if you remember the basics, what you have to do is to lower the critical angle of attack, get the nose down, let the airflow fly over the wing, and let that wing fly again. And that's how you get out of a stall. Another basic pilots forget is that attitude equals airspeed and power equals performance. I've seen this in jet airplanes as well. If the airspeed is getting a little too fast, some pilots freak out. They want to pull on the speed brake to slow the airplane down or reduce the thrust to reduce the airspeed. That's not really the primary way how you're supposed to slow an airplane down. The primary way to slow an airplane down is to adjust the attitude if you want to get a slower airplane, or if you want to speed up, lower the pitch attitude. And then you can add or subtract thrust. And when it comes to performance, if you want to climb at a higher performance rate, you want to add more thrust, not just pull the nose up. If you pull the nose up without adding thrust, eventually your airspeed will decay and you won't be going very far. So your attitude controls the airspeed and your power controls the performance. Another basic, as you know, when you fly smaller airplanes that gets forgotten as you move up to bigger airplanes, is that we try to solve the problem using automation versus disconnecting everything and hand flying. For example, a really bad thing to do below 10,000 feet is to try and program the autopilot to match the changing conditions of the airspace. Now, in the Boeing aircraft, they have the mode control panel where you can make quick corrections to the flight management computer. But when you're really close to the ground in an airport environment, sometimes the best thing to do if ATC is giving you too many changes or things are not going the way you want it to go is to actually disconnect the autopilot and the autothrottle and to get the aircraft under control, figure out exactly where you are in space, and then maneuver the aircraft to where you want to go. And then if everything is all settled down, now you can put the automation layers back on. So guys, this is my opinion as to what's the number one cause of problems for pilots, and that is forgetting the basics. It's not okay to think that just because you're now flying a bigger airplane that the basics don't count. You're after all flying an airplane. It's just a different size and more complicated because of the systems involved. But at the end of the day, it is still an airplane. So if things don't go the way you want it to go, just disconnect the automation and hand fly. So I hope this finds you well, and stay safe. And remember, a good pilot is always learning.